All right, everybody, I got a bunch of new Blu-rays in, and I'm going to walk you guys through an updated ripping tutorial. Now, before we jump into anything, let me tell you, if you are trying to rip 4K Blu-rays, you are going to need a drive. I get my drives from a guy named Alex. I'll put his email in the description and the top link there so that you can contact him. He did say he was going to close up shop, so I don't know how long after this video is released will he continue to flash drives and sell them. I don't know. He might just run through whatever he has in stock. Contact him and see what's up. All right, let's get into it. Right now, I made a slide which will kind of help figure out what file formats should you rip in and what devices will play those. So let's check out my little slide. Nothing fancy here. As you can see at the top, we've got different file types. We've got MKV, M2TS, ISO, and BDMV. And with these MKV and M2TS, these two are going to be just the movie. So what does that mean for you? That means it's going to be a smaller size. ISO and BDMV are going to rip the entire disc. So it will retain all of the menu structure, all of that. If there's any extras on the disc, it'll save that. So everything is there. So it's going to be larger. So if you're worried about how much space you're going to be taking up, then that would kind of dictate which way you want to rip the files. Now, of course, ISO and BDMV also retain Dolby Vision. So if you have a lot of movies that are in Dolby Vision, maybe you should rip into ISO or BDMV. Now, there is a lot of debate about MKVs encoded with Dolby Vision. Some people say that's not real Dolby Vision. Some people say, it's okay, whatever. So that's up to you. So we have the 4 file types. Now, as far as 1080p Blu-rays go, we can rip it into MKV, M2TS, and ISO. Now, from my experience, the BDMV rips on standard 1080p Blu-rays, they don't play in Blu-ray players or in media players. Now, it's been quite a while since I've had an Oppo UDP-203, which did play BDMV folders of 4K discs. I'm not 100% sure if that one will play the 1080p Blu-ray BDMV folder or not. I don't know. When it comes to 4K Blu-ray, you can rip an MKV, M2TS, ISO, and BDMV. Now, when we're talking about ripping the movie itself, we need certain software. The free one is called MakeMKV. And with MakeMKV, you can rip 2 of the 4 formats. You can rip into MKV, hence the name, MakeMKV, and you can back it up to a BDMV folder. And I'll show you guys how to do that in just a second. So with the free software, you can rip 2 out of the 4 formats. So not bad. Now there is a paid software called DVDFab, and it can get kind of expensive depending on which format you want to rip in. I found it on sale and got the entire bundle, so I don't have to worry about it. But if you're going to rip 4K Blu-rays to M2TS or MKV, that's one module you have to pay for. If you want to rip it to an ISO, that's another module you got to pay for. And then standard Blu-ray, rip to M2TS or MKV, that's another module to pay for. So as you can see, it gets pretty pricey. I just waited for a sale and then just bought it because I do a lot of ripping, so I want to have options. For instance, sometimes MakeMKV doesn't do anything or keeps getting an error when it's ripping. And instead of ripping the disc like 10 times, I'll switch over to DVDFab and it'll rip it no problem. Or vice versa. If I rip it in DVDFab and I'm getting some errors, I'll switch over to MakeMKV and it may not get the same errors. So, this whole ripping thing is not a perfect science. Like I'd say 60% of the time, it works all the time. So with DVDFab, you can rip to MKV, M2TS, and ISO. There was a time when you could back up to BDMV on the DVDFab software. However, I think that is gone now. So I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure it's been gone for a few different versions of that software. So now the big question is, what players will play these files? Well, if you have a Zidu or a Zapedi, you're going to be able to play all of them. MKV, M2TS, ISO, BDMV. And that's going to be 4K, HDR, Dolby Vision will work if you have a Dolby Vision ripped ISO or BDMV. And you can also play all those file formats with the Zapedi. In fact, I have both players in the house. I have 2 Zidus and I've got 2 Zapitis. So I use them both pretty much interchangeably. I use it with my network attached storage device, and they can pull the movies on each device and play them without issue. Next up is Plex. And if you want Dolby Atmos, you need to run Plex through a shield so it is lossless. NVIDIA Shield TV Pro is what I'm talking about. And with Plex, it will only support MKV files. So if you are using Plex and you want to pick a software to rip, you could use the MakeMKV, the free one, or you could use DVDFab, which you'll have to pay for. Either way, it can only play MKVs. Somebody did say to me that it will support M2TS, and after quickly looking online about an hour ago, it's still a no-go. But, you know, if somebody has a hack to play M2TS via Plex on a shield and get 4K HDR with immersive audio, hey, let me know in the comments. I'd love to, you know, try it out and see if it works. Now, the last device is a Blu-ray player. And if you can see on the list here, it says, except Panasonic. None of the Panasonic players will play the 4K HDR immersive audio files. They just don't. They might be able to play some MKVs that are compressed a different way, but these one-to-one rips that we're going to be walking through in just a minute, it won't play those with any audio. So it's pretty much useless. Now, as far as the other Blu-ray players, I have played M2TS files in pretty much all of them. And there's a lot. I've had a lot of them here in the house. So that is the file format I always rip to because my Oppo 203 would play the M2TS files without any issues. If I tried to play MKV, it would play in 4K HDR, but the audio would not be Dolby Atmos. And that was like a bug with the Oppo. Now, when it comes to ISO and BDMV, the only Blu-ray player I've experienced that will play an ISO file is the new Magnetar UDP 800, and I would imagine the UDP 900 as well. And I have a video coming out about the UDP 800. Should be out this week or next week. Not sure. But that one will play ISO files from an attached hard drive and via the network. That's pretty huge. And as far as BDMV files go, the Oppo 203 was able to play them off an attached hard drive, and the Magnetar will play them on an attached hard drive or on a network hard drive. So you have a little bit more flexibility with that Magnetar. But there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Now that we've understood what file types we can rip to, and what software will rip those file types, and what players will play those ripped files, now let's get to ripping. Oh yeah. All right, so I've got a disc already in the tray. And when we open up MakeMKV, it scans the disc. It'll tell you the information on the disc over here. This icon becomes a button to click. So if you want to make an MKV, this is what you click on. But first, I want to show you how to make a BDMV. Right now, all we need to do is go click here on this folder icon. We need to make sure the decrypt videos file is checked. And then we pick a path, select the folder, and then I'm going to hit OK. And when this is done, it's going to create a BDMV folder. Now, I'm not going to wait until it's done because that would this video would take forever. So I'm just going to stop it. And it's going to say yes. And it's going to say the backup has failed. But don't worry. This is what they look like here. All Quiet on the Western Front, Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, and The Incredible Hulk. Now, when we click into any one of these, it has a folder structure. As you can see, there's a BDMV, a certificate, and then this MakeMKV folder. Now, these are all made up of a whole bunch of other files and folders. So whatever this folder is where your device is going to get the name of the movie from. So just leave it alone. It should be fine. And you should be good to go when you put this on a Zidu or a Zapiti or on your NAS for use in those devices. Let's go ahead and go into the MakeMKV section to actually make the MKV. All right, so when we clicked on that little icon, we get this situation here. Now, one of the things that's very annoying with MakeMKV is you have to actually choose which title you're going to rip. And usually it's the one with all the different audios. Now, this is a Blu-ray, not a 4K Blu-ray. It's an old movie, because I wanted to make sure it was small enough to actually finish the rip in a timely manner. So what we're going to do is we're going to deselect all these here. Okay. And so we only have the one thing selected. Now, of course, the main thing that you want to do is turn on your forced subtitles in English. Now, in this list, there might be all kinds of different languages and different subtitles. I usually just take the first audio track because that's going to have your Dolby Atmos and your master audio, the DTSX, whatever it has. That's going to be your top one. And then as far as subtitles go, I would do the forced only just in case the movie has subtitles for whichever part of the movie it is. If you don't do that, then you won't have any subtitles and you won't know what the actors are saying. So make sure you click subtitles, forced only. And then this one has the DTS HD master audio, and then it's got a DTS surround 5.1. You're probably going to want to keep the 5.1 in there if you have an immersive track as the first audio track, because if you play back on a device that doesn't support Atmos, then you won't get any audio. Like if I was going to play this on my TV later on one of the Zidus, which doesn't have Atmos decoding, then we won't hear anything if we don't select the 5.1 track. So make sure you do that. And that's about it. So we are going to change the path to MakeMKV Rips and just select folder and go ahead and do MakeMKV. All right, so it looks like it says copy, complete, one title saved. That's good. So let's go over here to wherever I saved it, MakeMKV Rips. And here it is, Paris, Texas.mkv. Now, what we want to do is go ahead and take out this little title thing so it just says Paris, Texas, and not all that other gibberish behind it, because you don't want that. You want to make sure that the movie file is as easy to read as possible. So now we've gone over making an MKV in MakeMKV and making a BDMV folder in MakeMKV as well. Let's move over to the paid program, DVDFab. All right, so here is the DVDFab interface, and across the top, we have the different modules, right? I don't usually use the creator or the converter. It's either the ripper. If you want to make MKV and M2TS, you use the ripper. If you want to use an ISO or create an ISO, you use copy. So right here under ripper, we're going to toss in the same disk we did in MKV and see how it pops up. All right, here we are. And here is like the info screen. And we want to come out here to the output area. Now we can choose either M2TS or MKV. Those are going to be your pass-through. These are the bit for bit, one-to-one rips. Let's choose MKV right now because I want to show you something here. This is the only audio that we need to select. And for here, we're going to click display only forced subtitles, forced only. We can do normal and forced, it doesn't matter. And then from there, we do the same thing. We select a folder. So if we do M2TS or MKV, we just pop it into that folder. Let me do M2TS for right now. Select this folder and let's change this to M2TS. Now, if you notice, we actually didn't have to go in and select the titles we wanted. DVDFab is going to figure that out on its own. So as far as, ease of use between MakeMKV and DVDFab, this seems a bit easier for me because we don't have to select or deselect or try to guess which title is there. And then I'm just going to hit start. All right, so for our video's purposes, I'm going to cancel this right now, and it's going to say yes. At the end of it, it'll say that it succeeded, or if it came back with errors, it would say it has errors. So when we go to see what happened in the destination folder, as we can see, we do need to rename this. The movie is called Paris, Texas. So we want to get rid of this title 1, and I'll get rid of the spaces and put a little space there, the underscores and put a space. So we have Paris, Texas.m2ts. And that is how you create an M2TS rip with DVDFab. Now let's go to an ISO. So again, we're going to need a different module. Right now we were in the ripper module. This is where we were. Now we have to go to the copy module. All right, so here, there's not a whole lot of settings. Not a whole lot. So what we need to do is go down to here where it says ISO. And we're pretty much just selecting the folder where it's going to create the ISO. And I'm going to hit start, but I'm going to cancel it because I don't want to sit here for another like hour. I'm going to go ahead and cancel it right now. And I'm going to show you, okay, over here in my little folder structure, I have 4K ISO Rips, and then go in there. And then this is how it comes out. As you can see, I also have the Tropic Thunder ISO, which you can see is 76 gigabytes. And this is how it looks like. It says .iso, and it has a different little icon. And that's pretty much it for the ISO. Now, again, you'll have to move this to an external hard drive or to your network attached storage so that you can play it in your Zapd or your Xidu. All right, so I loaded in John Wick Chapter 4 just so you guys can see what you will run into. So we've got 4K UHD, Dolby Vision. If this wasn't a Dolby Vision disc, it would just say HDR10. And we also have the file size of 90 gigabytes. It's a one-to-one copy. And if I wanted to make an ISO of this, I would go ahead and save it here. And that would be it. I'd be done. But let's go into the other ripping module and check it out so you guys know what to do over there. All right, everybody. So we've got more information here. AC3, True HD Atmos. We're doing the custom M2TS pass-through. Now here's where you would pick your audio, but as you can see, DVDFab's already got it figured out. It's just going to take that very top one because that's what everyone's going to want. Now, as far as this is concerned, we got a couple of English. Let's go to display only forced, normal and forced, and leave those two checked. And that's it. I would just select where to drop it. 4K M2TS Rips, I would select that folder, hit start, and we'd be off to the races. However, if you wanted to rip this as an MKV, i.e. you're using Plex, then we would go to this tab right here, choose other profile, and select MKV. And as you can see, we still get the same True HD 7.1 Atmos, English, forced and normal only, and then we would select a destination and hit start and continue on. It's just that simple. So for me, I like DVDFab just a little bit more than I do MakeMKV. Sometimes if I want to make a BDMV folder, I'll use MakeMKV. But at the end of the day, if I'm making MKVs or M2TS files, I'm just going to use DVDFab because there's less guesswork involved. But you do have to pay for that. So there it is. All right, everyone, let's do a quick recap. MKV and M2TS will give you a single file output, and it'll be smaller than the other options. The other options being ISO and BDMV. Those are going to give you the entirety of the disc. It's going to keep everything intact, the menus, Dolby Vision, all that kind of stuff, and it's going to result in a larger file size. So depending on how much space you have, you're going to want to first pick one of those things. Secondly, you're going to want to pick which ripping software you're going to use. MKV will get you an MKV and will also output a BDMV folder. DVDFab will allow you to rip an MKV, an M2TS, and rip to an ISO. So you have to make that decision, right? How much space do you want to take up? How much space do you have? Then which ripping device is going to be the one for you? And then at the end of it is what playback device are you going to be using? Now, if you're on Plex, then you're just doing MKVs, in which case you can use either DVDFab or MakeMKV. If you have a Xidu or a Zapd, then you can rip to MKV, M2TS, ISO, BDMV. All of those will work. So you can choose whichever ripping software you want to. And if you have a Blu-ray player where you're just plugging a hard drive into the USB port, M2TS is probably going to be the only format you're going to rip to unless you have a Magnetar or an Oppo. The Magnetars will be able to play ISO and BDMV files, and the Oppo will be able to play BDMVs from a USB connected storage device. There you have it. That's it. This is an updated 2023 ripping tutorial. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. If you have any comments, leave them there too. And that's it. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.
MKV